The biggest Steam Deck update of 2025 just dropped, so let's talk about everything it brought with it. After that, let's talk about how one of the coolest Steam Machine features might make its way down to the Steam Deck. And finally, this is the biggest upgrade I recommend making right now to your Steam Deck. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is Deck Ready, my channel all about Steam hardware. I hope you're having an amazing week playing a ton of video games. I'm playing through Half-Life 2 for no reason in particular at all. Nothing is supposed to come out soon. Not Half-Life 3. No way. Valve can't count to 3. And I'm also playing DK Bonanza because I went to Nintendo World at Epic Universe last weekend, and the Donkey Kong Land was so cool that I immediately ordered that game. It was the push I needed to play it. Let me know what you're playing down in the comments below. I am so close to 100,000 subscribers. Whether you're new here, you've been here for a while, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications to all. But let's get into this first topic here, which is a massive Steam Deck update that's brought along a feature that everyone has been asking for over 3 years. That feature is screen off downloads. They said it couldn't be done. They literally said it couldn't be done. We've been hearing for years that Linux does not have the capability to download games and have the screen be off. It's crazy. There was a little bit of a hack you could implement on the Steam Deck where if you had a game downloading in desktop mode, you could set your screen off time to like 5 minutes and the screen would turn off, but then your Steam Deck would stay on for a while and it wasn't optimal. So I'm glad Valve went and updated it to add this feature in. And the cool thing is you don't need to do anything to turn this on. All you need to do is update your Steam Deck and it'll be right there. And I think it's cool that they turn it on by default because I've been using it in the beta version of this firmware for a couple of weeks. And in my experience, at least, it works 99.9% perfectly. So the way this is going to work is if you're downloading a game on your Steam Deck and you hit the sleep button, a menu will pop up where you'll see the game that's downloading and it'll be like, hey man, do you want this to download with the screen off and then have the Steam Deck go into sleep mode when it's finished? You can hit yes. And then there's a timer. If you don't want it to do that, that'll give you an option that says, hey, you can also just go into sleep mode right now. I left it downloading a game because I got a 2 terabyte SSD. I looked into transferring all the stuff from my 1 terabyte over to my 2 terabyte, and it's like a whole pain in the butt process. So I was like, this is a great opportunity to test out the screen off downloading. I downloaded 44 games overnight. When I came down here in the basement in the morning, they were all downloaded. The Steam Deck was in sleep mode. Everything was copacetic. I was very happy with this feature, and I should be because they took so freaking long to make it. I say it works 99.9% perfect because I actually did start a game download when I was starting my workday. I heard it finish, and then a few hours later, I went to turn on the Steam Deck again. I hit the power button and it went into sleep mode. So I don't know if it just never went into sleep mode or if it did and it turned back on or something, but that only happened to me once, and that was on the beta mode. So hopefully that was resolved by the time they added it into the regular update path. But yeah, this is an excellent feature. Of course, I've seen the people complaining about it saying, oh, the PS5 and Xbox Series X were able to do this forever. Why is it crazy that the Steam Deck can't? Well, I'll explain it. The Steam Deck couldn't do it before, and now it can, and it's a cool feature. So people who use the Steam Deck are excited about it and don't care if the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S could do it before. Did that answer the question? I think it did. So that's the biggest feature by far that this update brought with it, but they also have a ton of bug fixes. So they had some issues with hidden games where they would show up in your library under all games, which kind of defeats the purpose. So some of you guys playing those adult games out there who are trying to hide them in case, I don't know, like your wife is around and you don't want her to know what games you're playing, you're safe now. They updated it so that your hidden games will stay hidden. I think that's important for some of you out there based on what I've seen you've been playing because I added a lot of you on Steam. Some of you guys are playing some really crazy games. No judgment or anything. You could play whatever game you want. I just bought a Donkey Kong game because I went to a theme park, so I've got no room to criticize anybody. They also fully implemented the feature that'll warn you if a message is coming from a scammer on Steam. If you don't know what scams people are running, if someone messages you on Steam and you answer and they talk to you and then suddenly they ask to trade for your entire Steam trading card library, or they send you play tests, that's a big scam right now. People will send you a playtest link for a bigger game that's coming out. It was happening with Battlefield all the time. Don't click those, but now Steam will warn you. It'll be like, hey, this is pretty suspicious. This is not a true invite to a playtest for Battlefield 6. Don't be tricked by it. So that's a good feature. I don't think the vast majority of the people watching this channel would ever have to worry about that, but you know, Steam and SteamOS is getting bigger than ever, so you got to keep everyone covered. They also added in a lot of support for 8-bit Do controllers, which is great. I love the 8-bit Do Ultimate 2, and I got to tell you guys something. Check this thing out. It's an 8-bit Do controller that looks exactly like the limited edition Steam Deck that I use. So this is going to be my main Steam controller going forward because I love love this black and orange colorway. It was sitting in my tool chest over there for like a year. Shout out to Kareem Jovian on Twitter. He tweeted a picture of his limited Steam Deck with this controller. I asked him where he got it. I find the Amazon link and I'm like, I did a sponsorship with Vitcher a long time ago and they sent me a ton of stuff that I didn't even open. Turns out they sent me this limited edition Steam Deck colorway controller and it works great because it's just a regular 8BitDo controller. This video is sponsored by FlexiSpot and their Lotus recliner. I gotta come clean. I'm a huge fan of this recliner. They sponsored me with one earlier this year, and when they asked to sponsor another video, I said, can I have another one of those chairs, please? A huge reason I like it is because the seat width is 20.9 inches. I'm a tall guy, so it actually feels comfortable for me, which is rare. And the 9.8 inches of armrest width is just icing on the cake. I'm pretty basic, so I just tend to sit normally, but they tell me you can sit cross-legged, sideways, whatever way you want on this chair because it's so spacious. It rocks back and forth, but I like that it swivels because when my dog is down here while I'm working, she likes watching me, so I can just turn the chair towards my desk. Reclining in this bad boy is also super simple because there's a button on the side you just push and it reclines. And there's a concealed storage spot, which is the perfect size for a Steam Deck. You should definitely check it out at the link below, and you can use the code LOTUS30 to get $30 off your purchase. Plus, don't miss out on FlexiSpot's Black Friday sale, where you can get up to 80% off. Once again, huge shout out to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. Anyway, the DualSense got a lot of boutique updates too, like they fixed the gyro and made it even better with the DualSense, which is great. They also fixed the light bar, which was having issues since like July or August. I use the DualSense Edge as one of my main controllers on my Bazzite PC and with my Steam Deck, and it's just weird playing that controller without that blue light or orange light if it's charging, letting you know that it's on, so I'm glad they fixed that. I was kind of wondering why the DualSense was getting all these boutique updates and then they announced the Steam Machine. I bet they think a lot of people are going to use their DualSenses with the Steam Machine. I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking since I don't think a lot of PS5 players are switching over to Steam, but you know, it's good to have that support there because that's the main controller I use and I think it's going to be great for the Steam Machine. And the last big thing they fixed is one I've seen a lot of you talking about, which is when you pull your Steam Deck out of sleep mode until it reconnects to Wi-Fi, the controls could lock up, and if you didn't have Wi-Fi near you, the controls would stay locked up and you'd have to hold the power button to reset your Steam Deck. So that's fixed. I tested it out. It all works fine. But that brings us to the second news story here, which is that Valve wants to take one of the cool new features they've developed for SteamOS for the Steam Machine and bring it down to the Steam Deck. And I think it sounds awesome. The feature is being able to dock your Steam Deck. So, you know, put it on the Steam Deck dock, plug in the power cord, and then walk away. And by the time you come back, if any games got updates, they will have updated in the background automatically. So you don't got to go through that process of, you know, you sit down at the end of a workday, you pull out your Steam Deck, you want to go play a game, suddenly it has a huge update, then there's like 15 other shader cache updates and a new patch that you have to download, and it can take a long time. So by the time it actually finishes, you no longer want to play video games and you just go to bed. Consoles, as the people love to tell me, have had this feature for a very long time, right? Like if your PS5's in rest mode, your Switch 2's in rest mode, your Xbox Series X is in rest mode, and like, I don't know, Arc Raiders gets a patch, they'll all download it in the background and patch the game. That's awesome. I'm glad for you. I'm so happy that you're having fun on your console. I'm pretty sure Windows Steam has this, but I guess the Linux version of SteamOS didn't because, you know, it wasn't a necessary feature on something like a Steam Deck or a Legion OS. But with the Steam Machine trying to bridge the gap between PC and console, I mean, it's a no-brainer feature to add, right? Like the thing's going to stay on with the screen off and it'll be able to be on the internet. So if it connects to the internet, it should be able to just download patches so games are ready to go. And it's so awesome that Valve wants to add this to the Steam Deck because it's a great feature. But the reason they kind of have to figure it out is because they don't want something bad to happen. Like, you know, you leave your Steam Deck plugged in, it starts downloading an update, bam, a power outage happens, it gets a huge power surge, your Steam Deck's battery dies, and then the update pauses halfway. And then by the time you come back and turn it back on, the update is corrupt. It takes up storage space once it fixes itself, or the game will be not updatable. You'll have to delete it and reinstall it from scratch, which would also really suck. It sounds like a fairly minor complication, but like, look how long it took to get screen off downloads implemented. I'm assuming that's just because this stuff doesn't really exist in Linux, so they've got to figure it out, but I hope they do that. I love this idea of the Steam Machine kind of presenting like brand new use cases for SteamOS for Valve, and I want them to go through the effort to make sure they pass down any of these that are possible to the Steam Deck because they're growing the Steam hardware family, right? Like, it's not like there's two teams within Valve, one working on the Steam Deck and SteamOS, one working on the Steam Machine and a different version of SteamOS. It's all the same SteamOS. It's probably all the same team working on this stuff. So hopefully they can kind of keep these things linked together and give them updates at the same time instead of bouncing between them, focusing on one, focusing on the other. But I think this feature would be awesome, and I'm glad they're talking about it because that means they're actively working on it and it'll probably happen. And when I was thinking about this for the news story, I would love to see a Wii U situation go on where if you have a Steam machine, you can directly connect your Steam Deck to it and use it as a dual screen display. I'm not going to like pretend Valve's going to advocate for Nintendo emulation, but you know, one of my all-time favorite generations of Nintendo games is the DS and 3DS, and I just think it'd be really cool if you could play, I have to pick the game wisely here. I don't know. Monster Hunter Tri. Yeah, if you want to emulate Monster Hunter Tri on the 3DS, like make the top screen your TV and the bottom screen your Steam Deck, that would be perfect. It's like built for it because the Steam Deck has a touch screen and it's a little bit smaller of a screen. So it'd be like the most lopsided Nintendo DS of all time. Or you could take it one step further and do Wii U emulation and play Aliens Colonial Marines. I don't know why you would, but like I have to think of a non-Nintendo game here to talk about. Like if you wanted to play Aliens Colonial Marines with the top screen stuff on your TV and the Wii U gamepad stuff on your Steam Deck, wouldn't that be cool? I'm sure they're already working on something like that. Like if they're not, they've completely dropped the ball. So if you're watching Valve, do dual screen support if you connect your Steam Deck to the Steam machine. I feel like that's just a total no-brainer. But yeah, getting things back on track here, let's move into the third news story, which is one big upgrade you should make for your Steam Deck immediately, which is one I just did. So with my Steam Deck limited edition OLED, I've been using the 1TB internal SSD and a 1TB micro SD card that has followed me from the LCD Steam Deck to my Steam Deck OLED limited to the second limited one because I had to RMA it, and it works completely fine. I absolutely love it. But you know, with this whole feature that they're pushing for the Steam Machine and the Steam Frame, where you can pop the micro SD card out of your deck and put it in any of those devices and all your games will just populate totally fine, I was like, man, I think it's time to upgrade my micro SD card. So I shelled out, I think like $200 for a 2TB SanDisk Gold micro SD card. I'm pretty sure because I just said that, it will link one in the video and I do get a little bit of commission. That's just like the one I recommend because my last one, the 1TB that lasted forever and still works fine, it's in my Legion Go S right now, that was a SanDisk Gold and I've had no issues with it. I don't know what type of black magic Valve has cooked up where you can play a game like Hogwarts Legacy off one of the older micro SD cards. Like the Switch 2, which plays a lot of the same games as the Steam Deck, has to use those SD Express cards to make sure it can access the games faster. And the only perceivable difference I've been able to find is that load times are a little bit worse with the micro SD card, but that's such a fair trade-off to keep all of your games on a 2TB SD card that you can move between devices that I think it's totally worth it for anybody. The reason I think you should make this upgrade now is because when the Steam Machine comes out, I think these things will be hard to get because the SD Express cards were impossible to get when the Switch 2 came out. And also there's a memory shortage going on. I'm not sure how relevant micro SD card memory is to something like an AI data center. I doubt really at all, but you know, if there's a shortage of memory with RAM and storage, I feel like that would probably cover the micro SD card camp as well. I checked before I recorded this video and the prices were the same as when I ordered it, but yeah, these prices change like every day, which really sucks. So with Black Friday coming up, keep your eyes on Amazon for a deal on a 2TB, and I think you'll be good to go for the Steam Machine and Steam Frame, no matter which one you pick up. And even if you don't buy any of them at launch, if you end up getting, I don't know, a Steam Deck 2, or you have to buy another Steam Deck, or you get a micro SD card reader on your PC, it's sweet that you can just move these games back and forth and they work completely fine, so you don't have to re-download them on any PC you use. I'm also glad that they figured out how to use these micro SD cards that are a little bit slower than the Express ones because, you know, the component cost is going to really add up, and there's all these rumors and hype and speculation about the price of the Steam Machine. So, you know, going with a much older SD card drive is probably a lot cheaper for Valve than using the latest and greatest, which is SD Express. And I like that they're keeping feature parity with the Steam Deck, right? Like it would suck if the Steam Machine only supported micro SD Express, but the Steam Deck didn't. wouldn't, because there's no way they'd release a revision of the Steam Deck to get an upgraded micro SD card slot, because I don't think we're seeing any new Steam Deck hardware until the Steam Deck 2 comes out in a couple of years. I usually just like to shoot the shit with you guys at the end of these videos, so this time I'll say I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you have a great Christmas. I have a problem I'm dealing with my Wrangler right now, where I put the soft top on wrong, and there's like a 1/2 inch gap between the windshield and the front edge of the soft top, so I have to keep it covered when I'm not driving it because it snowed a couple times, and when it melted, it goes straight down my door and into the car, which is great. I love that. I can't fix it though because the soft top is literally so cold that I can't get it off, so I gotta either find a heated garage or figure out a heat gun or something. So that's what I'm going through. Also, my Kenwood radio is just randomly rebooting while I'm driving, but I just replaced the alternator and battery. I did it myself, so I could have done it completely wrong. Who knows? But yeah, I don't really mind car trouble. It's kind of like big Legos. I don't know. Let me know what's going on in your life down in the comments below. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.